Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our service this morning. I'd like to welcome you to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a spiritual community philosophically based on existentialist and feminist principles. We're dedicated to human liberation and the protection of the natural world. We make our spiritual home here in the old stone church, which was hand-built over 100 years ago by the African-American Antioch East Baptist Church. We acknowledge that racial hostility drove those African-Americans from the area. We honor them and the powerful history of this place. We also acknowledge that in the 1800s, the Muscogee Creek people were driven from this land and would support justice for all indigenous people. Oh, thank you for being here this morning. Good to see everybody's smiling faces. So, what if we start with a congregational song? I'd like to introduce our musician this morning. This is Alan Brown. Alan is going to play through each one of the songs that we're going to sing before we start to actually sing. So he'll play through the first one and then we'll join in on the second time around. So Alan, what is our first congregational song?
Our first congregational song will be number 1, the beginning of the book, How Can I Keep From Singing? Number 1.
Thank
you this morning. My name is Reverend Marsha Mitchell. I'm the facilitator today. The first quote of the day. Be a good ancestor. Stand for something bigger than yourself and bow you to the earth during your sojourn. That's by Marilyn Wright Edelman. If we have any community announcements, if you would please write it down and pass it up so that I can read those later on in the service. Community announcements, anybody? How about any newcomers? Do we have any newcomers that would like to stand and let us know how you came to be here today? Give us your name. Yes.
I'm Chris. I came, well, I'll be honest, if you're Franklin. Okay. But I'm enjoying already. I love that opening song. Okay.
Great to have you. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm Jenny. I'm a fan of Franklin's also, but so far it's been great. And this is my sister Dee.
I'm glad I'm not staying with anyone. I lived for 25 years just on the other side of the tracks. And I'm here to learn about existentialism.
Great.
Meet my neighbors, and I'm glad you guys don't dress up.
I'm Shelley Berlin. I'm not a newcomer, but this is my first time back here since before COVID. And I'm delighted to be coming to hear Franklin again because he's always wonderful and amazing.
All right. Great.
I'm Carol Rosa. It's not my first time being here, but it's been a while.
Good to have you again.
We'll slow it down.
Anybody else? I'd like to point out to our newcomers and returners that here on the side of your bulletin, there's a little side tear-off piece that's called a connection card. If you would like to sign up for that, we send out a e-blast twice a week. And it just lets you know what's going on in the congregation, keeps you up to date on events and everything in particular that's happening. So it's just a way of keeping in touch with us. So if you'd like to sign that and put that in the collection plate when it comes around later on in the service. How about birthdays and anniversaries? Who do we have that's got a birthday? Where's Mr. Bill Reed? Bill, you want us to sing happy birthday?
Bill.
All right, we have an enthusiastic Bill Reed coming up front.
81, still having fun.
So let's give Bill an enthusiastic happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bill.
sing happy birthday to Linda Bell.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy
All right. Two of those faces that we see here every Sunday.
Yep.
For years.
I won't say for how long. I've got another congregational song, Alan.
Okay, in honor of the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, we're going to sing number 3. Number 3, We Shall Overcome.
Remember, he's got to play it through first. Let us remember by overcoming, it means that we have to do the work that it takes to get there. You can go downstairs. I don't believe we have any youth this morning. Ministers Mormon, I want to draw your attention to an email that's been sent out about the congregational meeting that's coming up. This is a very important congregational meeting. It's not going to be a long one, but it's a very important one because what it does is it allows, it sets out the parameters whereby if someone who has met all of the qualifications for being in UU training and they've been called to ministry, that if they desire, they can ask us if we would ordain them. Now, a committee is formed when that happens, and the committee is the one who talks to the person and determines whether or not they meet the kind of values that we have in terms of existentialism and feminism and social justice. So this is not an automatic thing just because somebody applies. An example would have been if Duncan Teague, since Duncan Teague had a relationship with us, if when he finished his coursework, if he had desired to be ordained by us, then he could have asked our congregation to ordain him. So that's just an example of the type of thing that this is going to be. This does not open the doors to just anyone who wants to be ordained, but rather to provide the framework from which we would work. To see if that person is someone that our congregation feels meets the kind of values that we want in ordination. So please, that's going to be on August the 24th, is that correct?
Yeah.
August the 24th, that's just a couple of weeks away. It's not going to be a long meeting. We'll have, I think it shouldn't take more than 15 minutes, particularly if you will read the amendment so that you understand what the amendment actually says. And then we'll explain it to you again at the meeting and answer any questions and then have a vote. And it requires 3/4 of the members, and we have to have a quorum to start with, and then of that quorum, 3/4 of that quorum have to agree that we accept that person. So if that is, just keep that in mind, and please be sure and show up. That also happens to be the third Sunday, so that means that we'll be having to eat and greet right afterwards. So that'll be a great way to celebrate changing the amendment.
Marcia, I think it's the fourth.
Excuse me?
The fourth Sunday, right? Yeah, it's the
24th?
I believe it's the fourth Sunday.
This month we have 5 Sundays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is the fourth. Yeah.
Now I'm going to read out some of the congregational and community announcements that I've received. Number one is, and this is going to be so much fun, the Little 5 Points Halloween Parade is coming up. And if you've ever been to a Little 5 Points Halloween Parade, you know how much fun that is. So we would like to have a contingency in the parade, but of course we need to have a certain number of people to make it worth our while. So there's a sign-up sheet in the back on Jan's holding up the sign-up sheet. So anybody who's interested in being a part of the Little 5 Points Parade, and basically that means just walking along, and we'll have flyers for you to hand out, but it's probably maybe a little candy or stuff like that. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun to see everybody all dressed up, some of them and just having a good time. So, excuse me? What is it?
October 19th. October 19th.
June 9th?
October 19th.
October the 19th. Okay, thank you. All right, so please be sure on your way out, sign up. It's also going to be a really special series of classes here coming up called Nurturing the Mind and the Body classes. Begins on September the 1st, and it will be on Mondays for 6 weeks, from 6:30 to 8:30, here in the sanctuary. It's taught by Shanti Price and John Beasley, and I think that hopefully you'll remember Shanti is the one who played the flute with Gene when Gene played. So that gives you a point of reference for who Shanti is. And John Beasley is one of what I will put in a personal plug and say John Beasley is one of the best chiropractors in the city. So, and one of the nicest men that you'll ever meet. So, the series is going to be, again, beginning September the 1st at 6:30 to 8:30, and each Monday following for 6 weeks. It will include mindfulness practices, nutrition, movement, exercise, sleep and stress response, blood testing protocols through the lens of functional medicine concepts. We will take you through the eyes, taking in information, formulating intention, initiating action. So there are flyers on that little table in the back. You can pick up and get more information. Also, I put 2 cards that are over on the bigger table where we keep the name tags. One is for Andy Weisskopf. As you know, Andy had some very serious surgery, and he had to have a second surgery. He is back home, but this is a long recovery. So, if you would please, if you know Andy and would like to wish him well, please sign that card, and then I'll put it in the mail. There's a second card for Brownie Hendricks. Brownie Hendricks had a hip replacement and is in, I think she's already in rehab. No, she's still in the hospital, but she'll be going into a rehab after that until she can get back to her place. So Brownie Hendricks has a card and Andy Weisskopf has a card. Please sign them and let them know that we're thinking about them and we care about them. Now we're going to have a time of silence. This is an opportunity for you to sit quietly with your brothers and sisters, to pray, meditate, to just go inside, be quiet with yourself. There are candles on either side of the congregation or the sanctuary.
Number 22, Cosmos. Number 22.
And then Alan is going to play special music. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. It's Maya Angelou. We are very fortunate this morning to have Franklin Abbott as our speaker today. Franklin is a retired psychotherapist who practiced for over 40 years here in the Atlanta metropolitan area before he retired. He facilitated many self-help and healing workshops on gay identity and other issues. He co-founded the Atlanta Circle of Healing, which we had here at times here in this congregation. Co-founded the Circle of Healing and established the Atlanta Queer Literary Society. He was a pioneer in the pro-feminist men's movement. He's a writer, a poet, an artist, a gay activist. He's written several books: Mortal Love, Pink Zinnia, and the latest of those, My Ordinary Life. All of those you can find at Karis bookstores and other independent bookstores. In his write-up for this, Franklin said that he is an ancestor in training. So I look forward to what the ancestor in training has to say. Please help welcome Franklin Abbott.
Always a joy and a privilege to be here with you. And I don't believe in any previous visit I've heard so much sharing, of joys and sorrows. And that really, warms my heart, because I feel like there is an intimacy here and a trust here that people are being real about what's going on. Some of it's lovely and some of it's painful. But here we are. Here we are. Yes, I am an ancestor in training, as we all are. It's something maybe you don't think about if you still have older relatives. Patton was mentioning losing somebody in his dad's generation, so that now you're the top of the line. And I kept my parents a long time, into my 70s. And so the experience that many people have of, their parents dying, and then you kind of looking over into the abyss because there's nobody in front of you, that gives you a sense that your ancestry is well on its way. So many of us are in our 70s and beyond, and so we are almost ancestors. There's no question that there's more for us in the future as an ancestor than there is in the future for us as a living human being. It certainly doesn't mean that we should not value every moment. In fact, I think it is a meditation on what are we passing on? What are we leaving behind us? When you think about your ancestors, and we all have them, we may like some of them and may not like some of them. I actually like my parents better as ancestors than I did as parents. And I come from a background where the telling of history is very shallow. I think that that's true for a lot of people who come from an agrarian background, that they just got up in the morning and, collected the eggs and milked the cows and took care of the field and hoped that there was enough food, and they did it over and over and over again. There was nothing particularly noble or interesting about what happened, except somebody would get sick, maybe somebody would die, it would be sad. But when I talked to my grandparents, and I knew all of them into my adulthood, their stories were very shallow, so I don't really know much about my family going back generations. I know that we have a new science called epigenetics, which says that our DNA is impacted by what happened generations ago. And perhaps one of the best ways of getting insight into that, unless you come from a family where there is a strong record of things, is just simply to look at the history. Simply to look at the history. That is a very important way of, kind of getting an idea of why you might be the way you are. And each of us is peculiar. That's one of the things I learned as a psychotherapist working for years and years, is that there's no such thing as a normal person. No. And we're delightfully odd. And if you start looking at it that way, it's sort of like, it makes life a whole lot easier. And so, if you come into my house, and people say this sometimes, they'll say, if there's ever a famine, I'm coming to your house because you have so much food. It's true. It's true, and it's just me and the cats, and the cats don't eat my food. So why do I have all of that food? And I think maybe if I look at the epigenetics of, where my family was during the Depression, during hard times, 100 years ago, food was security. And so I look into my cabinets and I feel very secure. The other thing I think that it's important to understand is that there is intergenerational trauma. And that's a little bit easier to understand than epigenetics, because epigenetics can stretch back many generations. Intergenerational trauma is usually something that we have some sense of. That someone who, for instance, my father's mother lost her father when she was 3 years old. That was traumatic. And her she reigned supreme over a very small territory, which was her home and her garden. She didn't venture out much. That was it. And she protected the members of her family. She was very, very protective of my grandfather and my father and her brothers and his brothers. And I'm sure that it had something to do with that trauma. We all have that. And I think that it's important to look at it. It's one of the big things that makes people from different groups different. That we have different kinds of intergenerational trauma. One of my good friends was June Dobbs Butts, who was quite a character. She was John Wesley Dobbs' daughter and Maynard Jackson's aunt. And she told me the story about her grandmother, John Wesley Dobbs' mother, who was a holler. She liked to stand out on her front porch, and she had a neighbor that she particularly disliked. And she liked to holler at that neighbor. And this would upset June and her sisters, who were very proper, and they would say something to their dad, and I said, "Dad, do something about grandmother." And he said, she grew up in slavery. She grew up in slavery. And that was how they came to understand that sometimes the behavior comes out of a trauma. And certainly she was someone who had experienced deep trauma as a child. I think it's important to talk about positive legacy. You know, this, one of the reasons I love coming here is the history of this building. You know, that this was built by an African-American church over 100 years ago. You know, the stones were put in by hand. And it was a very strong community until real estate changed and white people decided that they wanted to put a park over there where there was a vibrant community, and that this remnant of that community then was targeted until finally it was not safe to be here. It lay dormant for a long time. And because it is such a strong building, because the legacy is so strong here, it continued to stand until a little ragtag group of Unitarians took it over for a few years. There weren't enough of them to have a service every Sunday, but they came every other Sunday, which meant it could be rented out for other things on alternate weekends. And so a little group that I was a part of called the Radical Fairies, well, we thought that was a wonderful idea, and we would just rent it out and break the rules. We would sleep here, and there were enough of us who lived in the neighborhood that there were showers available, but the very first urban fairy gatherings happened in this building. And then First E came, and First E has been here for how long? Who can tell me? There are many historians.
It's 1980, I think.
1980. So that's a long time, a very long time. And, you know, so there is a huge amount of legacy that is here. That this is a place where, if you want to get in touch with the ancestors, they're here. They are absolutely here. Periodically, Antioch East will come back and do a homecoming and bring the choir, and there will be a celebration. It is, you know, a highly spiritual vibration. Highly spiritual vibration. And the congregation moved again, and some of the windows from their next church are now in the windows here. So there is just so much that we can be grateful for. I really like to look at ancestors as people that I have gratitude for. Even my parents, who my relationship at times with them was challenging, I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for what they did, you know, to help me come along in the world. And I'm sure that there were times, just like for you, where they wondered, was he going to graduate from high school? You know, is he going to go to college, stay in college, that sort of thing. My job evidently was to keep them worried, and I think I did a good job. So I wanted to talk about some of the ancestors that have been important to this particular community. And I do have a new book out, as Marcia mentioned, and I'm going to have a book party here on the 8th of November. It's a Saturday afternoon. Everybody's welcome to come. Hopefully it will be fun. It will not be a serious event. But let me read some poems to you. I haven't read them here before, but they're about here. You know, the people that I'm going to talk about, the four individuals, all had their memorial services here. All were very strong presences here. And if it takes me a minute to get through these, please bear with me. I understand completely what you were saying about the cat you lost 22 years ago, and how that loss is still vibrant for you. There are losses from my past that still surprise me. You know, that they'll just, all of a sudden, they'll emerge, and I will have a sadness. This is very pure and direct about that, but I think that it just means that was a very meaningful relationship. first poem is hiding from me. But that doesn't mean I didn't just find it. Okay. This is in memory of Sharon Sanders. And I know some of you knew Sharon very well. Sharon was a poet and a real solid and determined woman. I mean, she really embodied feminism in terms of you just had to be with her, and there was not an apologetic atom in her makeup. This is called Sharon's Suitcase. She had told me about the suitcase, and I had pictured something old-timey, maybe brown leather with gold initials embossed, a leather handle, and buttons that would pop open with the turn of a tiny key. But it was much more modern, more like a backpack on wheels, red and black. It was in front of the blue file cabinet in the office that was closed to the cats. The housekeeper said she did vacuum that room to keep her smell, she said, as she opened the door. Smell, she said. Can you smell her? She showed me the white box that held my friend's remains. We talked about the oxygen machine that was brand new at rest in the corner and maybe could be donated. I was provided with boxes and a trash can. My job was to empty the blue file cabinet. I rolled out the suitcase first. It took up more space. It seemed to have a life of its own, just barely breathing. I thought my friend would be more organized. She was a 1, 2, 3 kind of person. The alphabet was important to her. She was an English teacher, among other things. But personal files were mixed with tax returns. One was a file with her wife's name on it. Her wife was in the other room. I took it to her. She looked inside. She seemed surprised. She kept everything. It didn't take more than an hour to sort the personal and the old receipts, to find the program for her father's memorial and her mother's will, to fill the trash can with all that didn't matter, and put what did in the box that will go with the suitcase, to the archive, where this writer's life that couldn't be saved will not be lost. Sharon Sanders. And Sharon was married to a wonderful woman. And her memorial service was here. Okay. And this is for, and in memory of Martha Renfro Garner. Missing Martha. Heavy hearts. Call it a celebration of life, or a memorial service, or a last rite. Say she lived a long, full life, and in the end her body was her burden, and death a mercy. Share stories, poignant and funny, sing meaningful songs, read her dead wife's poetry about the mystery. The mystery. Hear a nephew review their history of shared culinary delights, recognize her caregivers as angels, listen to her neighbors who loved her, look upon the gorgeous floral arrangement in white and purple, share hello hugs in masks, faces turned aside, walk down the steep stairs to the sidewalk. Slowly holding on to the rail, drive home a different way, arrive hungry, warm leftovers, make a salad, try to eat, hungry but half an appetite. What is missing? Martha. And our hearts are heavy, such as grief. No matter the how and when, who was there and who was not, how lovely it all was, how loving we all were with each other. Our hearts are heavy, missing Martha. Martha Renfro Garner. And she was a delightful human being who simply radiated joy and warmth. And that she and Sharon Sanders were partners was always somewhat mysterious to me because they were so different from each other. And they made it work out. They absolutely made it work out. They sort of had a salon home in Pine Lake where they were very active in their community, held ukulele parties. They were quite an interesting couple and very interesting individuals, and contributed a lot, not only to First E, but to the community, because they were, well-known, close friends. All right. Another ancestor. This is for Robert Stewart. Robert. I learned this morning that my friend Robert died yesterday. He was taking a walk in his neighborhood, not far from my neighborhood, and collapsed on the sidewalk. He could not be resuscitated. His heart had stopped. It was the middle of the afternoon. Robert and I were friends by association. We were both part of an existentialist, feminist, spiritual community. Robert was straighter than I am gay. But he hugged with gusto and loved across the differences. He was a pillar of our community. The tennis savvy with his loss, his dedication held up this little group of eccentrics, friends on the fringes, devoted to social justice. Robert was devoted and an unlikely member. I teased him we were both Alabama refugees, having grown up in the segregated heart of Dixie. We shared an accent and a sense of humor and a knowing of how wrong racism can go. We were raised in a state that elected George Wallace governor, where Bull Connor set the dogs and fire hoses on peaceful demonstrations, where 4 little girls died at a church bombing. While we were both teenagers, we had a front row seat. We knew evil was evil. Robert was the member of the board or a committee who was always on one or both, who would invite me to speak at the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta, and often on less than desirable dates. A holiday weekend, the day after Christmas, and he knew I was likely to say yes. During COVID, he filmed me with his phone in my garden as an audience of one. He was the best I could hope for or imagine. Robert was present. He was my age and lived to see one of his fondest hopes come true. His son married, and he and his wife had a daughter. There's a poignant photograph of Robert holding his granddaughter, not knowing he was giving her his light. He gave his light to me. And though that light went out, it shines through hundreds of us who Robert loved without reserve. I can feel him incandescent. Well, it was.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. This is another poem that's difficult to read. Again, the memorial service happened here. And truly, I don't think we would be here except for this individual. He was the founder. He had the vision. One of his paintings is right over there, which gives you an idea sort of what a colorful human being he was. And his photograph is back over the big table. And so if you have not really spent time thinking about Lanier in a while, you know, those are places that you can go. Lanier's last term. Sam, the night nurse, Nigerian, Igbo, had midwife death before. Sam said, turn him. He said, in dying we become rigid, and so need to be turned. There was an orange towel on the bed under Lanier. I pulled in the direction Sam told me to pull. Roger, Lanier's nephew, gathered pillows to arrange for maximum comfort. Sam turned Lanier to the side where Roger and I sat. Rainbow Moon pulled in a chair and sat with us in between. She turned to me and said, I haven't blown you off about the board books. I understand why she had been here and would be here until the end. Rainbow Moon had midwife death before. We chatted about boards, and I told her at meeting the board woman of RIMS that Friday before had made the mistake of asking how she got into boards. We laughed as she told us the story of how she had gotten into boards. Lanier was breathing deeply, listening to us like we were wind chimes in his heart. Lanier loved the sounds of conviviality. Another radical philosopher, Stephen Levine, once told me, we die as we live. To steady me on my way home, I shook Sam's hand before I left. I tossed and turned before Nancy left me a message just before I woke up, and then I fell into a deep sleep. Nancy told me she went in to kiss Lanier goodnight, and his breathing was changing, becoming more spacious. Sam told her to get Pauline. Surrounded by love, in his home, under his most vivid painting, Lanier died as he lived, his last breath, a sigh of release. His last breath, a sigh of release. His last breath, a sigh of release. So I want to read one more poem for you. Again, aware of my gratitude for being here and being with you all and being in a place where we can share things deeply, including loss. The name of this poem is We Will Always Love Each Other. I've written about the deaths of my parents and the constrictions of COVID, and my knee failing me not once but twice. I have written about the weather, about friendship, about the loss of friends, about growing older, about letting go and opening up. I have written about the wisdom of cats and the symphony of nature, about the mute display of flowers in my garden. I have written poems about food and floods and the courage of refugees. I need to write this poem, one last poem in a long cycle. And I am searching for words, searching for meaning, searching for hope. And I look into the mirror of your face, your kind face, your wise face, your forever face, and I am listening to your voice, your sweet, aging, and saging voice. And I take to heart, I have seen you and heard you through the ages, and your echo is profound, infinite, and infinitely healing. I know when I lay me down and go to sleep, I may awaken And one of our voices has been silenced. I may not embrace you again. Maybe I have crossed the bridge, or maybe you. And I know that in the freedom that awaits us when our bodies have let go, our embrace is infinite. We will always love each other. There is such peace in my soul, such peace in my soul. We will always love each other. We will always love each other. Neither of us has to say amen. We are each other's amen. Amen.
Thank you, Abbott. So, what is our last congregational song going to do? Alan?
So, in this notebook, I don't know if you all have this, the songs are alphabetical. So, we're going to sing Blowing in the Wind. It should be about